Yo, what up? Welcome to Mo Boxing No Problem. I'm Jose Ortiz Jr. And in today's video, we'll be going over everything to know about the upcoming fight between Vergil Ortiz Jr. versus Michael McKinson. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, let's begin with the fight poster. The first thing to note is the fight will be promoted by both Bowling Gold Promotions and Matchroom Boxing. It will stream on dazn on Saturday, March 19th. Vergil Ortiz Jr. will be making his return to the ring after a 6-month layoff, not having fought since August 14, 2021, in a fight he won by TKO against Eugenius Velasquez, aka Mean Machine. Michael McKinson will make his return to the ring after an identical 6-month layoff. McKinson last fought on August 14, 2021 as well, in a winning effort by unanimous decision against Przemysław Runowski. Apologies if I butcher that. This fight here will be contested at the welterweight limit of 147 pounds and is scheduled for 12 rounds. The main undercard fights for the event start at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 p.m. Eastern, 2 a.m. GMT. Expect Ortiz Jr. and McKinson to make their ring walks around 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, 5 a.m. GMT. As for the fight location, they'll be out of the Gallon Center in Los Angeles, California. All right, switching gears now to go over the tail of the tape. Let's talk about the overall record. Vergil Ortiz Jr. has had 18 bouts with a perfect record of 18 wins, 0 losses, and 18 knockouts. Michael McKinson has 21 bouts with a record of 21-0 with 2 knockouts. Now, talking about the power department, Ortiz Jr. here has an edge in power by a landslide, 100% KO ratio for Ortiz Jr. versus McKinson's 9% KO ratio. Physical attributes, Ortiz Jr. has the edge in height by 1 inch, and the reach is unknown as McKinson's reach has not been measured. As for the fighting stance, Ortiz Jr. fights out of the orthodox stance, while McKinson fights out of the southpaw stance. With regards to their age, McKinson is older by 4 years. McKinson is 27 years old, while Ortiz is 23 years old. Ortiz Jr. made his debut back in 2016 and has racked up 60 pro rounds, while McKinson debuted back in 2014 and has accumulated 139 pro rounds. Despite McKinson more than doubling the rounds of Ortiz Jr. in the pro ranks, I still have to give the edge and experience to Ortiz Jr., as he has been in with a much better opposition like Mauricio Herrera and Maurice Hooker, the former being a tricky fighter that was only stopped once by, you guessed it, Ortiz Jr. Now moving on to the rankings. We'll start off with BoxRec. Here we have Ortiz Jr. ranked at number 6, while McKinson is not ranked at in the top 25. He is ranked number 35 by BoxRec. Moving on now to the ring ratings, we have Ortiz Jr. coming in at number 5, while McKinson is not ranked in the top 10. Lastly, to finish off with the organizational rankings, Ortiz Jr. is highly ranked by all 4 organizational bodies. He is ranked number 1 WBO, number 4 IBF, number 1 WBC, and number 2 WBA. McKinson is ranked by only one of the 4 organizational bodies. He comes in at number 3 by the WBO. Now talking about betting odds, Ortiz Jr. is a huge favorite at minus 909, meaning you have to bet $909 to make a $100 profit, while McKinson is a plus 500 underdog, meaning for every $100 you bet, you make a $500 profit if McKinson wins. Overall, Ortiz Jr.'s chance of winning is 84.39%, while McKinson has a 15.61% chance of winning. And to conclude this video, let's talk about my prediction. I'm predicting Vergil Ortiz Jr. to win by knockout. Michael McKinson is a tricky fighter, a la Mauricio Herrera, and he will give Ortiz Jr. some interesting looks, but he doesn't have the power to bother Ortiz Jr. As such, I expect Ortiz Jr. to walk down McKinson once he's figured him out and end the fight in impression fashion. The KO streak will continue, and we'll have other welterweight champions on notice. And there you have it. You now know everything there is to know about Vergil Ortiz Jr. versus Michael McKinson. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. Until next time, remember, Mo Boxing, it's no problem. Peace.